I can't really tell you how to figure it out, but I can tell you how I figured out. Basically, I identified as non-binary for almost a year, and the problem was I couldn't tell if I was as happy as I could be. Is they them okay just because it's better than she her, or would I feel even happier if he him was used? And the only way that I could figure that out was if I tested that. So I went by a more masculine name, I switched to he, him pronouns, and one of the reasons I was so afraid to identify as a trans guy was because I'm afraid of men. Men suck. I was afraid for my queerness to be invisible. I would be perceived as like a straight guy by most people. It took like a year for me to figure it out, but I wish you luck in your journey.
You're afraid of men, but you want to be a man? How does that work? I personally never thought I can just identify as they, them just to see how that is. Identifying as they, them is not really a pit stop. And some people say, well, Marcus, can't children identify as they, them because it doesn't require them going through a medical transition? Then they're kind of in the middle and then they have time to think about who they really are. No, because being they, them is not a thing. Thinking that you can be non-binary, a they, them, is a religious thing. And I don't think we should teach children about pseudo-religions. But more importantly, what will happen, just like this person, you don't really go back to your biological sex. Once you get into the gender cult, you don't go back. And that's why children should not be near the gender cult. Do you know that it's actually possible to discover who you really are without identifying as non-binary or gender fluid? When you're developing and you're questioning what you are, it's actually the worst time to put labels on yourself. When questioning, you need to be alone with your own thoughts, and you especially don't need the internet to tell you who you are. I'm a true believer in protecting your privacy, and especially online. And that makes me think of today's sponsor. Speaking of protecting your identity online, which is a completely valid concern, protect your privacy online by getting Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN, which is an app or an extension, and has a lot of great benefits, such as blocking ads, protecting your data when using public Wi-Fi, changing your IP address that allows you to access content that's otherwise censored in your country. And my personal favorite feature, and that is to get cheaper plane tickets. That's right. Did you know that airlines use dynamic pricings, which leads to fluctuating ticket prices based on your location? But when I use Surfshark, I can connect to servers from different regions, so it helps me finding better deals and lower prices. If you want to get an exclusive Surfshark deal, enter my code MarcusDeep to get an extra 3 months free. They offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so why not try it out? Click the link down below if you want to check them out. Now on to the video.
How do you know if you're trans? You have thought about it, and you have thought about your assigned gender at birth. The role that you play in the context of your assigned gender at birth. If you think maybe a different gender would serve you better. And if this video is showing up on your For You page, you might be trans.
There are plenty of people in society who are uncomfortable with their gender, so does that mean they're all trans? No. In certain cultures, it's not really fun to be a woman. Does that mean that all these women who are uncomfortable being women for valid reasons are men? And I really disagree with the statement, if you ever doubt if you're trans, you're probably trans. What? The amount of people who are in my DMs, including some of my friends, who thought that they were trans growing up, or the opposite sex rather, just because they were masculine as girls or feminine as boys. And they're also telling me how grateful they are that they're not children today, in today's society, where doctors and maybe their parents would transition them because they show gender non-conforming behavior. When you're young especially, it's the most natural thing in the world to question what you are, not who you are, but what you are. What you like, what you don't like, what makes you comfortable, what makes you uncomfortable. By saying you're probably trans if you question it, we're ruling out the possibility that the person is just gay, or even straight, who knows? We're ruling out the possibility that the person is actually a part of the 99.9% of all people. The factual number of people who are trans doesn't align with the number of people who are questioning if they're trans or not.
A bigger question that might be on your mind is, how do you know if it is right to transition? You don't, unless you give it a try.
Just give it a try? What's wrong with you? These people I'm about to show you took your advice and just tried the transition out. And here's how it went.
Started me on Lupron, and then they put me on testosterone.
You got your mastectomy at 13, just a few years after you started puberty. How do you feel about that? What's it like dealing with that?
It's very conflicting, but honestly, I'm very upset that it was done to me so young, and also not to mention in a headspace where I just shouldn't have been able to make those kind of decisions.
I have 2 giant scars across my chest that remind me every day that I was butchered by the institutions that we all thought we could trust. I wish I could have my breast back, but a reconstruction may be riddled with even more complications, and no matter what, I will never be able to breastfeed my future children.
It's pretty obvious to anyone watching, it's not reversible. And again, why is this person not saying you don't need to transition in order to be happy? You don't need to transition if you're doubting whether you're trans or not.
If you think you might be trans or gender nonconforming but you're not sure, ask yourself these questions. These are the questions that I asked myself to figure out my gender identity, and I hope that they can provide you with some clarity. So at the beginning, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a man or if I just wanted to be non-binary. Think about you before you knew that transgender people existed. How did you feel? Did you have gender envy? Did you experience feelings of wanting to be the other gender or anything like that? Or did you just start having these feelings really recently, or as a teenager, or after a big life event happened?
Wait, this is kind of based. He's talking about the difference between early onset gender dysphoria versus rapid onset gender dysphoria. Early onset means you were born with gender dysphoria. You've always had it. Where rapid onset gender dysphoria means you just suddenly feel trans. Most of the time due to social media. But I just have to say that just because you've had gender envy when you're a kid or teenager doesn't mean that you're trans. Because gender envy and gender dysphoria are 2 different things. The reason why some people transition to the opposite sex, or so they can live their lives as the opposite sex, is to alleviate the disorder gender dysphoria. The person is trying to alleviate the irrational discomfort regarding their biological sex, so they're trying to change their bodies and their lives in general to feel better. So the discomfort is the mechanism. It's about being uncomfortable with reality and the truth about what you are. Gender envy is about being jealous of the opposite sex. And if that's the entire reason why you want to transition, don't. If it's even slightly possible for you to live as your biological sex, and it's possible not to change your body, don't change your body. And just because you don't like being a woman or a man, because of very specific reasons that are socially influenced, don't transition. Because you can change that. You can change your opinion about what it's like to be a woman or a man. But if you're born with gender dysphoria, you can't do anything about it. It doesn't matter that you can be a masculine woman or a feminine man. Gender dysphoria is a mental disorder. It's innate.
Hi, I'm Ezra, and I want to talk to you today about how I figured out that I'm trans. So I first came out as non-binary and I was using she, they pronouns, but it didn't really work that well because I didn't actually like being called she, and I knew people were only calling me it because they perceived me as a girl. So I kind of scrapped that one, and then I started using they, them. And then I really wanted people to refer to me as he, but I was way too scared to come out with he, him, or he, they, or anything like that. So instead I decided to use all pronouns, in a hope that people would use he for me, but they didn't.
Do you know why? Because you're a girl, and you look like one.
And yet again, like with she, they, I was being she'd all over the place, and it really wasn't working. So I decided, okay, scrap that, they, he pronouns. And then I changed my pronouns to he, they, because he was my dominant pronoun. And there's a theme going on here.
And the theme is you're treating your gender like it's a game, which has nothing to do with being trans.
Like, I've been wanting to be called he, him way back when, but I was too nervous. So then I did finally come out with he, him pronouns. Well, I guess this is me telling you that I'm a man. I don't think I've really told you on TikTok yet. I mentioned it on YouTube, but yeah, I'm not non-binary anymore. I have now come out as a man and I use he, him pronouns. So yeah. And I've been on T for like nearly 6 weeks.
Who gave this girl testosterone? Shame on them. She can't even make up her damn mind about her pronouns. This person clearly knows who they are, and they should definitely receive irreversible drugs. If you're dealing with chronic gender dysphoria, you will figure it out eventually, and you don't need all these videos to tell you what you are and what you feel. And that's why I dislike these videos so much, because they're brainwashing people who are not even trans into believing that they are, and pushing them into a medical transition. These videos are doing so much harm today, and that's why we say that the rise of people identifying as trans is caused by what we call a social contagion. Therefore, we should leave people alone and let them figure out what and who they are all by themselves. I don't think that's harmful in any way. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to see more content like this, remember to hit subscribe and the notification bell. If you want, you can support me with a small donation under Super Thanks. It helps me out so much. So thank you on beforehand. You can become a member of this channel where I make exclusive content. So if you want to join us, there's a link down below. Follow me on social media and I'll see you all in my next video. Peace out.